Welcome, this is John Carr. This is supposed to be an analysis of North America's box office for Data620, Section 9040, for Professor Carrie Beam's course. Question is, why an analysis of the box office? Well, because I love movies, and you love movies, and everyone loves movies. Everyone goes to see movies. Movies are a big business, and what you're going to go and see shortly is that there's a story to tell with the data that I brought in from my data sets. And we'll explore that together. A little warning, due to the graphic nature of Tableau, parental discretion is advised. Now we're at our storyboard, and what I ended up doing is I ended up picking up 20 years worth of box office data for my time series on average ticket price, box office gross, and tickets sold. So we started off in 1997, data ends in 2016. And as I went through and started bringing this data in, I was noticing that the revenues were going up year after year, as you can see right here. But ticket sales at some point started to decline. And then around 2007, what happened is it looks like there was some type of convergence almost. And then ticket sales continued to go down, but revenues continued to go up. And as you could go and see down here, with the average ticket price, this is not adjusted for inflation, but in 1997, average ticket price was $4.59. In 2007, the average ticket price was $6.88, and then in 2016, it was $8.65. And year after year, the box office revenues increase while the tickets sold declines and eventually flatlines. So now let's go and take a look at our second storyboard here. I brought in additional information about the cable TV subscriptions over this 20-year period of time from 1997 to 2016. And as we take a look in this first chart right here, we could actually go through and see year after year cable beginning to decline as well. And as you also notice, as I mentioned before, our box office ticket sales also continuing to decline year after year. And I brought the box office gross revenue again, along with the amount of movies that were being released year after year over this period of time. As you can see, revenues continued to increase. Generally, they were increasing, trending upwards. But then around 99 to 2002, there was not very many as many films as that would be made in 1998, for example. And then I also noticed here 2008 to 2011, it seemed to be the same thing. There seemed to be this dip, and I was getting really curious about what's the deal. That's why I wrote up here, what's the deal? What's going on here?
So additional information that I brought in was from the Census Bureau for the recession index and also unemployment rate over this 20-year period in time. As you notice, we ended up having two recessions, one of them in 2002 and the other one in 2009. Around 2002, that's when the dot-com bubble burst, and then in 2009, that's when we had the housing crisis. Notice the recession index here was a full 100%. Unemployment rate was 9.8%. The data that I brought down here was supposed to go and represent cable TV subscriptions and also box office sales during this 20-year period. And I put a trend lines on there. And as you go through and notice during this 20-year period, the trend continued to be downwards. After this first 2002 recession, it looks like both were trying to recover, but then around 2007, I noticed that both cable TV subscriptions and then also the box office receipts continued to go down, or trending downward even more. And maybe the Great Recession did have something to do with affecting the box office, but also I was noticing now that cable TV subscriptions were also being impacted. So more information was needed to figure out what was going on. So there has to be something more than just the Great Recession that's affecting the box office, because we're also noticing cable TV subscriptions going down too. Well, obviously, going through and taking a look at this period in time, we could go through and see that the age of video streaming subscriptions were on the rise. These first two represent box office, tickets sold, and then also cable subscriptions. As we go down this list here, we could go through and see box office tickets being sold basically flat lines from 2008 to 2016. Cable subscriptions continue to decline year after year. Telecom, examples of that would be AT&T with their Dish network. Telecom rises, and then around 2014, then it goes through and it basically flatlines. Hulu, now we're really getting into the video streaming services. Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon Prime all start going through and start getting phenomenal growth. Netflix was around, and around 2008, that's when they started getting involved with their video subscription services. And as you could go through and tell, as we look, and it's just fascinating when you come here, if you follow this with me from 2008, take a look at all these hard data that we're looking at from Hulu, Netflix, Telecom, tickets sold, go from year to year. You could go through and you could start seeing Amazon Prime and others just growing like gangbusters. It's just amazing. And at the very end of 2016, the clear winner is Amazon Prime. It's really considered the champ with around 73 million subscriptions. But roughly 40% of that total subscribers actually use their video streaming services. What Amazon has that the rest of these guys don't have, these other video streaming services don't have, is Amazon also has free 2-day shipping. So I thought that was very interesting, even though they could go through and boast around 73 million, and actually this year it's over 80 million, that roughly is an estimate of 40% of their actual subscribers for Prime actually use their video service. Okay, so then now we go through and we understand that video services, streaming services, probably had something to do with the decline of both the box office ticket sales and then also the decline of cable subscriptions as well. These last two graphs that I have here is supposed to go through and represent trends that we see for the box office and home entertainment. Now, what we're looking here over the 20-year period is supposed to go and represent cable, and then telco starts coming in and subscription services. As we could go through and see through the trend lines, we could clearly see that the non-box office, which includes streaming services, will continue to go and rise into the future. And while we go through and see trends for actual declines in movie ticket sales. And then as far as the forecast goes, and I thought this was really interesting, over the next 10 years from 2017 to 2025, plugging in the numbers for the tickets being sold in the box office, plus subscriptions, video subscriptions, what ended up coming out of this is pretty much Tableau going through and saying ticket sales look like they're almost going to be flatlining, or he couldn't really give a very good guess. Then this was really out of 20 years of ticket sales. That as far as the next 10 years goes, Tableau is just saying our guess is as good as anyone else's. But what's interesting as far as video services go, we continue to see those rising over the next 10 years, and I think everyone could go through and understand that. So out of this entire presentation, we could go through and see, yes, recessions did play some part of the decline of the American box office, but it was really more video subscription services that ended up putting the final nail in the coffin.